Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 257 of the show. And before we get started, we're just going to do a little bit of house cleaning around here because it only makes sense that we do it. So let's just get on with this house cleaning. I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. That does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly take time in your days to down these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly keep letting me know how you feel, whether they like my stupid face or not, or my opinions or not. At the end of the day, you're greatly appreciated, and I greatly appreciate all of you. So thank you for coming back and listening to the show. I also do want to say as well, thank you to Patreon backers for supporting the show as well. You guys are also greatly appreciated. But as I also alluded to in last week's episode, because we were primarily talking about the breaking news with the CMA and the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal and stuff like that, that yes, there was also some more breaking news that happened, which was in regards to the Pixel Fold. So, well, that's what we're talking about this week. And yes, I get it. It comes at least a week later, but I do feel like it's important that we do talk about it since, well, this is one of the most anticipated phones of the year, and it is Google's first attempt at a foldable phone. Even though, yes, I will be transparent, as I always have been regarding foldable phones, is that I genuinely just don't think they're a good idea. I think they're impractical as all hell. I genuinely think that foldable phones are not the future. They're just this fad just because we're, used to these slabs that we call smartphones, and people just want something different. It just comes at the cost of reliability, durability, and just the overall practicality of a foldable phone makes no sense. Like, you can argue as much as you want that, hey, these things don't break down. I'm like, yet we've seen time and time again the displays are unreliable in terms of durability. The USB ports on these suckers are also unreliable as well because they are, for some reason, more prone to breaking. I don't know how, but that's just multiple reports have been showing that, and also firsthand experiences, because I have people that work at mobile phone providers and stuff like that. So them making commentary, have they noticed how a lot of these phones have been coming in with broken USB ports and stuff like that? Displays obviously having issues because, well, as we always talk about the average user, the average user is not necessarily the most responsible with their expensive toys. Let's just be real here. But all that out of the way, I will say that the Pixel Fold is probably the one that interests me the most. Granted, I think it was the Oppo Find N2, that one. Or it was one of those foldable phones that they came out with that came with that more, how would you say, more similar to like the folding style of like the Microsoft Duo and that style, more of like a book. And I prefer that foldable style more than the more, traditional tall aspect ratio and stuff like that. I prefer the more, I'd say book style foldable if you want to call it that. But so we've seen some leaks regarding the Pixel Fold, and John Prosser has been talking about this. I've mentioned John multiple times, host of Front Page Tech. You guys have probably heard of him, seen of him. Heck, he even posted a video about this last week, and he talked about how at this point it's pretty much confirmed. We know when the launch event is happening. It's happening here in May. It actually will be happening, if I'm correct, it should have been May 11th is when it's no, May 10th is the launch date. So here shortly, the time it's recording, it's May 3rd, so 7 days. And so we should be seeing stuff about it. However, we did receive some more information regarding the pricing, and this is where a lot of people have been debating is a lot of these leaks regarding the pricing, because originally we're being told by other sources that this thing is looking to undercut somewhere in the $1,300 to $1,500 range. And obviously this would undercut Samsung's Z Fold line because that makes logical sense. And Google would have tried to go more that route of offering more bang for the buck in this foldable phone size, or you want to say this foldable category, it only makes sense that you want to undercut Samsung, who currently is the market leader, aside from say like Oppo and other regions and stuff like that. But here in the US, yes, Samsung is the leader when it comes to foldable phones. The problem is, Jon Prosser has stated that the 256GB model of the Pixel Fold will cost at $1799, and that later down the line, they'll eventually add the 512 model, which will cost like around $1919, which, yeah, that's a pretty big discrepancy, especially when you're looking at the pricing strategy of the upcoming Z Fold 5, which that's pretty much what we're coming up to right now. And yeah, it's one of those things where if the pricing strategy is true, I think this phone might be dead on arrival, especially when you hear the specs. They're talking about the battery size, about like 4,800 milliamp hours. We're talking, the Google Tensor 2 chip and the Titan security chip and things like that. Obviously, a more stock Android feel, using a similar camera setup as the Pixel 7 Pro right now. Aside from all those things, it's essentially just a giant, Pixel 7 Pro, but foldable. But the main difference is like the display technology and stuff like that, like what style of foldable they're trying to go for, which is more of this portfolio style, like more of a book style, where the front display is very large in comparison to say Samsung's, where it's more narrow, long, while this one is more like wide open. And then when you look at the inside, there's obviously bezels in there. Like there's clearly defined bezel, which some people prefer like no bezels. Some people would prefer having the bezel. Personally, I don't care, because at the end of the day, foldable phones have always been that category that just doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Like the practicality behind them, like it doesn't click, if that makes any sense. That yes, I could see the use cases where they would be usable, but it's like, if we're just talking about like people using phones on an everyday basis to take calls, like watch videos, like our traditional like form factors that we already have are more than capable. And granted, some people say, hey Josh, like, are you gonna change your mind when Apple comes out with one? Not really, because that sucker is probably gonna be hella expensive. Because let's be real, if Samsung was willing to charge a premium for theirs, do you genuinely not think Apple would easily charge a premium without hesitating? And everyone would flock to it because they're like, oh, it's an iPhone, it's gonna have the most support, it's gonna have the most accessories, this thing is gonna be built better than all the other ones, etc., etc. But I will say though, that when you take a look at the Pixel Fold and you see a lot of these pictures that have been provided and things like that, granted, on the podcast, we can't really do that since we're focusing on audio right now, but you can find a lot of these on Jon's video. I'm going to post a link in the description down below. And yeah, when you're looking at it, I like the design of it. Yes, some people will say, well, the bezels are a little bit too big. And I'm like, well, that doesn't bother me, because it's like, I like what they're showing, especially with the inner display. Like, yeah, you don't have to worry about seeing the camera module. The camera module is hidden in the bezel, which I think that's a good idea. Same thing with the front. I like that it's a more traditional form factor in the front with 120 hertz and stuff like that. There's a lot of things going for Google with this thing. They're talking about the 7-inch inner display, or 7.7-inch inner display. The outer is like 5.8. We're talking about the battery size, like the colors too. The colors are very, very straightforward. It's going to be silver, black, or that more green color that came out with the Pixel 7 Pro, which I really love that color, to be honest with you. Like, that color is probably arguably one of my favorites, if I'm just being honest with you guys. Because I have the Pixel 7 Pro. It's probably one of my favorite phones I have. Well, granted, it's one of the only two phones I own. But outside of that, like, I don't really know what else to say that hasn't been said before. And I think it's also because, like, I'm just not that type of consumer for this product. Like, yes, I can be interested in looking at some of these, looking at these phones, talking about them, discussing about them. But I think it's just the practicality behind them. Like, I just don't know. However, this is one thing I will say, though. I think it's good that Samsung is finally getting competition in the American market. I think, especially in the foldable space, Samsung desperately needed competition because, yes, they are the market leader right now. Like, they're not really getting that push to want to compete. Like, yes, they're obviously pushing themselves to make these things better, but they're eventually going to get to the point that if there was no competition, they're just going to be stagnant, just keep pumping out the same design over and over again, maybe very minimal changes, performance bumps, et cetera, et cetera. And personally looking at all this, I think it's good that Google is entering the marketplace. I think it's great for competition because, let's be real, competition in a marketplace is best for business. Everyone wins because more competition drives prices down, causes businesses to be more competitive, causes businesses to really assess their value proposition, allows them to really think about these, how would you say, their two market strategies and stuff like that. It allows them to really think about what makes us special, what makes us special, why should people pick us over the competitor? And in Samsung's case, their logic is going to be, well, we have a more refined design, we have been in the game longer than Google, but Google can argue, well, we have a better software experience, we have a better camera experience, we're going with a more conventional, I'd say, form factor that makes more sense, that's more appealing, and if they had it came at a cheaper price, then yeah, more people will be inclined because, well, they're more inclined to take the risk because it's cheaper, better form factor, better cameras. If you're giving people more reasons to pick you, like, that's the name of the game, is you're trying to undercut your competition. And it's like finding that value proposition, what's the best fit for the most people. Now, if the rumors are true that it's actually going to come at basically the same price as like the Z Fold 4 that is at right now, then yeah, I'm going to be real with you. It's going to be rough to sell this sucker. I genuinely think that they really should focus on coming at a lower price point, especially because you're entering the market for the first time. Just come at a lower price point, take the hit, build that market share up, and then you can eventually go from there. Because the more market share you gain, the more customers you gain. Like, yeah, you can sell at a lower price and quote unquote take a loss, but at least you'll be able to make that up by building a customer base, by building people who are interested in your products, getting into your ecosystem, using your services. It starts to add up. And that's the big picture that I think Google should be focusing on when trying to launch this phone. Because let's be real, we know this phone is about to launch very, very soon. Like, that's just the facts. The launch date is on the 10th during the Google I/O presentation and stuff like that. So we'll see. But I'm going to, like I said, in the links down below, I'm going to be posting John's video where he talked about the links, where he talked about the leaks, where he showed off pictures, everything that he's talked about. And we're going to go from there. But I know this episode is going to be a little bit shorter, but hey, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope it was useful. I hope you guys actually liked my commentary about this stuff, because I'm just going to keep it real with you. Foldable phones are not my taste. Like, I can like how they look, but that doesn't mean that I agree with the idea that these things are the future, because they genuinely are not. These things have yet to prove their durability, have yet to prove that they are a long-term solution to this quote-unquote problem of being bored of your smartphone, which, let's be real, it's not a problem. It's just people just want fancier toys. That's just it. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Are you excited for the Pixel Fold? Is this going to be like your first foldable phone if you want to get into the space? Let me know what you think down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope you guys have yourself a wonderful week and weekend. I know for me, classes are done. I'm basically just focusing on my finals right now and trying to, well, finish up the semester because it is my last one. Granted, I do have my summer classes, but we don't count that because they're just basically two classes. But, a lot of that stuff has been going through my mind. And eventually we'll do a real talk, just talking about the experiences and stuff like that. But I hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Please continue to be kind and respectful of those around you, because the world is still a weird place. And please don't do anything dumb. I love you guys to death, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.